before now. The pressure is on, gents. We were having a lovely conversation before, but now we're going to be serious business. I'm going to ask some really serious, hard-hitting questions now, if I could think of anything. We'll start with easy ones. What is your name? Where do you come from? And what do you do?
My name's Dan Klomstra. I come from Ontario, Canada. I've done this before, Canada. And I work for the Boston Beer Company as their cannabis ingredient specialist. I do R&D, benchtop formulating, and honestly, the coolest part is I get to formulate the beverage that I've always wanted to taste like I want. So I really enjoy it.
So you're living the dream.
I really am.
Quite literally.
I am. I'm here for work. This is just amazing.
That sounds fantastic. And you, sir, if you would kindly introduce yourself.
My name is Nick Olivas. I'm here from New York. I'm just here for the cannabis event and do some networking. Work with a few teams in New York that are going for licensing, and we're looking for the global picture.
Brilliant. And having landed in Spannabis, you guys have been there today, briefly, I think. You've been there and seen it. What are your first impressions?
It's a big event. There's a lot going on. There's a lot to see. Plenty of people to make good connections with there. And the the consumption aspect of it is it's inviting. It gives you a little space to chill while you're still at the event and not have to leave the event to go to someplace else, which I appreciate.
That's cool. Yeah, I think it's special.
I think the event is awesome. It's unlike any other cannabis event I've been to in Canada or even the States. Like seeing consumption kind of intermingled and everything, with beer being served, with food being served. The amount of boost, the sheer scale of this is just off the charts compared to anything I've seen in North America.
Do you think if well, this is going to be a really easy yes question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Do you think if the legislation was, more relaxed in either North America or Canada, and this sort of thing was available, that it would blow up, that it would be really popular? Do you think this would be something that people would want to adopt?
I think that people would love to have this. The difficulty comes in with getting legislation and kind of getting exactly what you want while dealing with government too. I'd be curious to see what it is in each respective country too. Like in Canada, it would be a very different thing than in the States, because in the States it's a state-by-state basis to do it.
I can't imagine. There's almost like there is a very relaxed European feel to the way that people are approaching the event. People are walking around. We were talking just before we come on camera about the fact that people were just smoking indoors. No one really cares. People are being let out back doors. They're coming in every which way. It does feel makeshift, but in quite a charming way and quite an honest way. And I think that's something that lots of shows could learn from and become a lot less almost corporate and clean, which is the danger of what we all sort of end up falling into in business-to-business conferences, as I'm sure you both know. So we're going to very quietly examine the quality of this bud without offending any of the owners, and then we'll figure out whether or not this stuff is as good as it is billed to be.
Everything has at least a few good attributes to it. Sure.
It's like even box wine has the redeeming quality that it is abundant and cheap.
Yeah, and hey, every now and again you do find a boxed wine that's rather good.
Well, it's just on point, absolutely. And what else? We've got some Space Jam, and we've got a rainbow mint and an apple fritter. Are these strains you're familiar with at all?
Yeah, it is.
As long as you can pass the stick test.
Talk to me. What is the stick test, sir?
If you can stick that bud to something or your finger and it doesn't fall off right away, you're heading in a good way.
Oh!
I've already got a difference.
It's nice soapy, vanilla.
Keep getting the pre-roll I had earlier on my finger.
That's it. The contamination effect at this point is going to be perhaps a bit of a problem, but I know you guys are going to soldier on and we're going to smoke some of it. Go for it. Do you want a pipe? Do you want some papers? What would you like? I've got a very fancy pipe if you'd like one. Go for it. There's a cheeky merch spot just flying across frame. How about, tell me this, so I'm pretty confident that this is all good weed. I'm pretty confident. You know, what is bad weed? How, if I buy something, do I know that I've been mugged off?
Okay.
So straight off the bat, what are we talking about? Yeah.
The first time you open the jar, you get blasted in the face, and pretty much every time after that, there's nothing. Supply chain, you know, it has to be stored at proper temperature, or else these are volatiles. They come off with more temperature, and if it's just sitting in your jar in the air, it's not in the plant, it's not getting in you. You want to keep all the goodness inside. That's one of the first qualities for me.
Yeah, it's to that point. It's something like a food product. So there's sort of an expiration date, and there's a freshness that you're trying to keep. You know, if you leave your bread out, it goes stale a lot faster than if you keep it in the bread jar. Similar.
These type of analogies are exactly what I need. So if I'm the layman. This is exactly what I need. Put your bread away. You don't want it stale. You don't want it moldy. It's the same with your weed. So what are we seeing here, guys?
I'm seeing phenomenal coloration.
We're seeing great color, and we're seeing a really good trim job on here too, to be honest.
I'm seeing a lot of trichomes.
A lot of
and intact
trichromes.
ones.
Another indicator of bad weed is going to be something that's over trimmed. You know, all of the quality is in the trichromes, right? So if you're finding weed that has been totally shaved down, run through a machine trimmer, or crushed, pressed, and it's flat, there still may be some quality in there, but the higher level of care hasn't been taken.
It's almost that concentration of quality. You could buy 10 grams, and maybe 1.5, 2 are still there, and the rest is not so great. But if you're trimming it right, you can get a much closer proportion of the maximum yield is quality. Okay.
You can see all the texture on here in the flower that there's been care taken in this trim. Where if there were a lesser quality, you would just see a round sort of shrub.
It's got a beautiful structure. There's no holes. You don't see like bright, fresh green spots that were trimmed out. So you know someone wasn't too rough with it.
Yeah. There's also like this herby chicken dinner, turkey dinner kind of thing that goes on that comes with these the trops. We notice it in the white thorn.
Just like kind of rosemary.
Yeah, you get this herbaceous. The white thorn rose also has that. We call it turkey dinner.
This is two very, very skilled and well understood people nerding out over bud. I really appreciate that.
Man, this was dried well. This was cured well. It feels great. I've got residue.
It's all over my fingers.
I can't complain. It's a beautiful color. It doesn't show any signs of too old or
Off pistils or cowlicks. It shows well. This shows very well. I'm excited for it.
I think I don't know how much it was. It was probably €20 a gram, something like that. So it's not too expensive either. It's not too expensive. But I'll remember this now. From now on, this is what I'm gonna look for. This is the sign. And again, is there anything I should be doing at this stage, grinding? Because I've spoken to some people who make some very nice grinders who would argue that grinding is the devil's work and that you should be cutting.
I agree with that. I'm a scissors guy. I don't really grind that much. If I do grind, I try really just to kind of get one good quarter turn, and then maybe another quarter turn back, and then try to get it out with a coarse grind. This way,
It's all about the grinder,
you get
though,
more
too.
flavor. Yeah, it is. You got to look at the.
These aren't sharp cutting blades as much as they are tearing it up. I have one at home. It's like almost think of like a slap chop with like the little ball and wire chain on it, and it's like hand breaking it apart. It doesn't cut it, so you're able to pick out the stem nicely, and it's a nice experience. But the true purist is, break it down by hand, no glue on your paper, using a hemp wick and a match or something, no hydrocarbon lighter fluid to influence what you're getting. There's a lot to be said about the ritual for a lot of people.
I could definitely do a plug here for a product. It's not a product that we are endorsed by in any way. We just like it, and they're nice people. There's a company there based in London, run by a guy called Simon. A company's called Hoy, and they make a very clever pipe which is floating around somewhere. But they also have a grinder that doesn't grind; it cuts. I think it's called a clip. And he's like Danish engineering, so it's all super minimalist, really efficient, and it's beautifully made. And yeah, that's how I learnt that little bit.
Your grind size and consistency and like the moisture content of the flour going into it, especially on like commercial scale, is so critical. Like, because really, for the most part, you're using a shaking box, and if it doesn't filter down into that box well, you're just going to start getting folding and pitting in the joint. It's going to canoe. It's not going to be a good experience. So there is a lot to be said about a good grind.
This is one of our favorite parts of the whole experience is the dry pull, because you really get an unadulterated sort of snapshot of what is to come. Once you start burning it, things change, but like there's a story that happens from the time that you dry pull it till the time that you finish it. It's the only way that you can understand the plant.
And so, also, does it match up?
Yeah.
Is it what you expected? Because if it isn't the right flavor, you start to question things.
Yeah, it gives you clues into what to the process, to the growing process, to the drying and the curing process. All of that is captured in that joint.
And you know what you like. If you do a dry haul, you don't have to smoke the whole thing or part of it and get the undesired effect. It's just a way of test driving.
That's it. It's just dipping your toe in, isn't it? That's very much it. And so, are you able to? Are you tasting a lot of that? Is it part of the scent? What are we getting when we do it? Okay. So, one of the things that you guys do as ganjiers, one of the things you guys do is you learn a huge amount of language that helps you describe, and that's what a complete novice doesn't have. I also have no experience, but I'm going to use the wrong words, but I'll do my best.
Developing the lexicon is a challenge.
There's so much crossover.
It's kind of there's an obvious sweetness to it that comes through, but it's also a little bit earthy. So tell me, where am I compared to what the reality of it is, or with the right words to use?
No. I think those are on point. Those words, they're just a little bit less specific, right? It's definitely you're getting that herby earth kind of thing going on there. There's a sweet side in there, and the sweet thing comes off in a few different ways. If you pull it on it again, if you do, and you talk about the sweet, and I start saying like, well, there's like a cherry and a lemon sort of citrus, then you're like, oh yeah, that's where that sweet is.
You can drive someone pretty good. I could say clementines too, almost, and you might get a little bit of that in there.
The second you say it, it opens the envelope. And you're
Right.
like, oh, that is what's okay. Yeah.
Right.
Really, how it goes is like you try it or you smell it, and is the Ganjier assessment protocol is it earth, fruit, floral, sweet, or fuel? Really, everything's broken down into those. And then, okay, it's fruity. What type of fruit is it? Is it like an orange? Is it a citrus? Is it like a berry? And you kind of start narrowing it down. And each step, you get closer and closer to where you are. So it's a berry. Or in this case, it's a cherry and a citrus. So a citrus. What kind of citrus? A lime? Is it a lemon? Is it a grapefruit? What are you dealing with here? But no, you can just keep drilling down, and it's all about the experience and the practice of it, because it's all about.
You're building the memory.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're building, because every time you do one more, you know a little bit more, and you have a new point of reference. However marginally different it might be to a previous experience, you have a wider understanding every time you do it, and it's about building that and presumably practicing it as well. That's a huge part of it.
And when I do my assessments, it takes me so long because I want to write it in a way that, say I had something 10 years ago, I can refresh myself on exactly how I experienced it and start to pick out the variances.
That's awesome. Well, I will definitely hand this back to you. What are you tasting as that first go?
On that first one, you're getting some of that clementine and herby. There's like this almost like a savory kind of flavor, like chicken fat or like chicken soup. You know, the broth. You're getting this sort of herby, thymy. That's what I always taste off of that in this chicken dinner or the turkey dinner, as we sometimes
Really
refer to.
herbaceous stuffing.
Yeah, herbaceous stuffing, right? Yeah. The sage. Although it's not too sagey, but there is this other herb thing going on in there.
And you're going to have to track that down during the course of the smoke, I presume.
Sometimes we can say rosemary-ish. Sometimes I say thyme. It might be a poultry blend, that you pick up at the supermarket.
Well, you're sat in nice surroundings doing it as well, You're not huddled up in somewhere. This is a nice place to be. It's a nice bar.
You're not standing beside a dumpster in an alley. You're not hiding in your house from your neighbors. It's beautiful. Like,
Not getting in a stranger's car to go and pick up somewhere you've not been before. The old favourites.
getting stuck in like your dealer's house while he starts to tell you about all different kinds of things, and you're just like, man, just please, like, throw this stuff out. I don't like your like 50 cats and all the posters everywhere. And then they're always very unique areas that you go, basements.